Rain struck the glass in uneven streaks, distorting the skyline beyond Sarah Langley's apartment window. Boxes were stacked by the door, a silent inventory of betrayal. The apartment smelled of cheap red wine and jasmine-scented candle wax, a combination that clung to heartbreak. She was deleting pictures on her phone, Molly's birthday, the office parties, the engagement dinner. Every smiling memory looked staged now, like a crime scene photo she hadn't realized was evidence. Her phone buzzed again, another apology from David. She didn't open it. She couldn't. Molly's laughter still echoed in her head, the same laughter she'd heard through the thin apartment wall last night, followed by the sound of David's voice. That voice, familiar, pleading, intimate. Now, their clothes were gone. The shared closet, empty on one side. Sarah had spent the morning throwing the last of Molly's things into a pile, hands trembling not from grief but adrenaline. The betrayal had been surgical, precise, intimate, and cowardly. She walked to the kitchen, grabbed a small white box from the counter, a box of cosmetics and jewelry that Molly had lost months ago. Sarah turned it over, her breath sharp. Inside, a gold necklace, foundation, and a pair of earrings she'd once accused Molly of stealing. Her anger flared. "Take it all," she muttered, throwing the box into the trash beneath the sink. "Every fake thing you ever touched." She wiped her hands, reached for her phone, and typed, fingers shaking, the message she'd rehearsed 100 times in her mind. "I know everything. The package is under the sink. Don't ever contact me again." She pressed send, exhaled, and sank onto the couch. She didn't notice the number, not Molly's. A random contact saved months ago from an unknown spam text. The screen flashed, message sent. And with that, a door quietly opened in another world. Miles away, in a dimly lit office above an abandoned warehouse near the docks, a phone vibrated on a mahogany desk. Marcus Starkweather looked up from the document he was signing, a logistics manifest with nothing truly legal about it. The message appeared on his encrypted device. No sender name, just a number. "I know everything. The package is under the sink. Don't ever contact me again." The words were mundane, but to Marcus, they were perfect. His men had been hunting for a traitor inside his organization for 6 months, someone who'd stolen a shipment of diamonds and fed false intel to the DEA. The last transmission from the mole had ended with those exact 3 phrases. Marcus read the text twice, slowly. His jaw tightened. He pressed a button on the desk phone. "Leon," he said. The door opened immediately. His right-hand man, broad-shouldered, calm, stepped in. "Trace this," Marcus said, sliding the phone across the desk. "Now." Leon's brows furrowed. "It came from the city?" Marcus didn't answer. He stood, buttoning his suit jacket. "Get the cars." Sarah didn't notice the silence at first. It crept in after the rain stopped, that odd, unnatural stillness when even the city traffic seemed to hesitate. She sat cross-legged on the floor, her laptop open but untouched. The glow of the screen painted her face in pale blue light. The message she'd sent kept replaying in her mind. "Don't ever contact me again." Her therapist had once told her closure didn't come from words but from distance. Still, hitting send had felt like reclaiming oxygen. Then, a low, synchronized hum outside. She turned her head. Through the blinds, headlights slid across her living room wall, one beam, then another, then another. 4 black sedans stopped in front of her building, perfectly aligned. Engines still running. Her pulse spiked. Men in dark suits stepped out, silent and coordinated. They didn't knock. They didn't look around. They simply stood, one near the mailbox, 2 by the curb, 1 by the front steps, as if awaiting an invisible cue. Sarah's breath came fast. She reached for her phone, her finger hovering over 911, but doubt froze her. Molly? Could Molly have sent someone? Debt collectors, maybe? Or worse, David trying to scare her? The men didn't move. They just waited. And that waiting was worse than any threat. Sarah's knees weakened. She backed toward the kitchen, heart thudding so loud she thought they could hear it. Then, a knock. Gentle, precise, 3 slow taps against her door. The knock came again. 3 measured taps, each one more deliberate than the last. Sarah froze in the doorway between her kitchen and living room. The clock ticked above her sink, slicing the silence into equal, unbearable seconds. She tried to steady her breath, but her chest moved in short, sharp bursts. "Who is it?" she called out, voice trembling. A pause, then a man's tone, low, polite, almost soothing. "Miss Langley?" Her name, perfectly pronounced. I'd like to speak with you for a moment, the voice continued. It's about a message you sent earlier. Sarah's fingers tightened around her phone. She didn't open the door. Not yet. But something in his voice unnerved her. It wasn't a thug's bark or a cop's authority. It was calm, controlled, professional. I think you have the wrong person, she managed. Another pause. Then, that same even voice. May I step inside? I promise, I won't take much of your time. She hesitated, mind flickering through every warning her therapist had ever given her. Don't rationalize fear, act on it. But curiosity, that ancient trap of human weakness, edged her closer. She peeked through the peephole. A man stood there, tall, late 40s, sharp suit. Behind him, another man waited by the staircase, hands folded, scanning the hallway. They didn't look like burglars. They looked like men who could buy the whole building. And for some irrational reason, that terrified her even more. Sarah swallowed, unlocked the deadbolt halfway, the chain still in place. Who are you? He met her eyes through the gap, steel gray, unreadable. My name is Marcus Starkweather, he said, and I think we have a misunderstanding to clear up. Marcus stepped inside as if he'd been invited. He didn't look around, he simply occupied the space, a quiet gravity pulling the air toward him. Leon, the second man, remained by the door, hands clasped, a sentinel. Sarah stood opposite them, barefoot in an oversized sweater, trying to mask the tremor in her voice. This is insane, she said. You can't just walk into someone's home. You're right, Marcus replied smoothly. And yet, here we are. His tone was measured, almost kind, but beneath it was something clinical, assessing. His eyes scanned the kitchen, the trash can beneath the sink, the faint glimmer of gold peeking through the plastic bag. He gestured toward it. Mind if I check that? Sarah blinked. That's my garbage. I know, Marcus said. That's the problem. He crouched, pulled the bag open slightly, not rifling through it, just confirming. The jewelry box gleamed faintly under the kitchen light. He stood again, nodding as if he'd found what he needed. Where did you get this? He asked. It's not yours, she snapped. Possibly not, Marcus said softly, but the message you sent tonight, that was mine. Her throat went dry. I don't know what you're talking about. Marcus tilted his head slightly, watching her like a scientist observing a reaction. You texted me at 8:47 p.m. I know everything. The package is under the sink. Don't ever contact me again. Does that sound familiar? Sarah's lips parted, but no sound came out. Her mind spun. Her pulse echoed in her ears. It was a mistake, she whispered. I meant it for someone else. Who? Marcus asked, still calm, still polite. Molly, my roommate. Ah, Marcus smiled faintly, as if he already knew. And who is Molly? My former friend, Sarah stammered. She's not involved in anything. Are you sure? Marcus's voice was almost gentle, but each word pressed against her like a scalpel. Because my people intercepted a message earlier today, a message with identical phrasing. From inside my organization. Her confusion deepened into dread. What are you saying? I'm saying, Marcus replied, stepping closer, that your little outburst may have just saved my life, or cost yours. We're still deciding which. Sarah backed away until her shoulder hit the wall. Her heart thudded so hard it hurt. Leon shifted near the doorway, not moving toward her, but closing her only exit with silent precision. Marcus exhaled slowly, clasping his hands behind his back. Relax, I'm not here to harm you. Then why are you here? She demanded. Who are you? A businessman, Marcus said simply, one who lost something very valuable. He glanced again at the trash bin, then at her trembling hands. And you, apparently, have found it. I threw that away, Sarah said. It's garbage. Everything has value, Marcus replied. Sometimes the things we throw away tell more truth than we mean to. His words hung there, half threat, half philosophy. She didn't respond. He took another step forward, lowering his voice. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, Ms. Langley. You can answer, or you can stay silent. Either way, I'll know the truth. Her breath hitched. Who gave you the package? No one. How long have you been holding it? I told you it's not. And how much were you paid? I don't even know what you're talking about, she shouted, tears rising from the exhaustion of it all. Marcus studied her face, the twitch beneath her eye, the quiver in her mouth. For the first time, something in his expression softened, a flicker of recognition, not of her, but of pain. He'd seen this kind of fear before, the kind born of guilt that didn't belong to the person feeling it. He spoke quietly. Tell me about Molly. Sarah's anger flared again. You leave her out of this. Marcus's voice dropped lower, steady as a metronome. She hurt you, he said. You trusted her. She betrayed you, and now she's gone. Her lip trembled. How do you? I read people, Marcus interrupted gently. It's how I've survived. He watched her crumble just slightly, like a building losing one more floor to fire. The silence stretched. Rain started again outside, tapping against the glass like a ticking clock. Marcus turned toward the window. You sent that message for closure, didn't you? She nodded weakly. It wasn't meant for you, she whispered. It was just anger. Marcus nodded once, thoughtful. Then, almost to himself, anger is rarely meaningless. He looked back at her, eyes sharpened. You may be telling the truth, Miss Langley, but your words, they weren't yours tonight. They belonged to someone else first. Sarah didn't understand. Marcus sighed, signaling to Leon. Stay here. Make sure she doesn't leave. He started for the door, pausing just long enough to say, if this was truly a mistake, you'll have nothing to fear. But if it wasn't, you've already stepped into something you can't text your way out of. The door shut quietly behind him. Outside, the engines of the black cars started again, idling, waiting. Sarah sank to the floor, her phone still in her hand, staring at the last sent message glowing on the screen. I know everything. The package is under the sink. Don't ever contact me again. Her own words, now a sentence she didn't understand. The apartment had changed. It no longer felt like home. It felt observed. Leon stood by the window, back straight, his presence heavy but silent. Every few minutes he glanced at the street below, murmuring into a small earpiece. Sarah sat on the couch, knees pulled to her chest, clutching a blanket that smelled faintly of detergent and panic. Her phone lay face down on the coffee table. Each second of quiet made her more aware of her heartbeat. She tried to speak. You can't keep me here. Leon didn't look at her. Ma'am, you should stay calm. I am calm. Her voice cracked on the lie. Lightning flashed outside, momentarily outlining Leon's profile. Disciplined, expressionless. He wasn't a brute. He was something worse, a professional. She studied him, desperate to find a seam of humanity. You work for him, don't you, Marcus? Leon's eyes flicked toward her. I work for the truth. The sentence chilled her. Minutes crawled by. Somewhere below, one of the engines shut off. A faint metallic echo rippled through the walls. Sarah's mind raced through options, the back door, the balcony, but each idea collapsed under the weight of uncertainty. She wasn't in danger yet. But danger was circling like wolves outside the fence. A few blocks away, Marcus sat alone in the back of the car, rain streaking the tinted glass. A laptop glowed on his knees. On the screen, an intercepted message log. Lines of digital static, timestamps, fragments of phrases. At 20:47 p.m., an encrypted code had been triggered. I know everything. The package is under the sink. Don't ever contact me again. Marcus exhaled through his nose. Impossible. The same code, the same words. He leaned back, letting the realization settle like a bruise. Coincidence doesn't exist, he muttered. The driver said nothing. Marcus's mind moved with ruthless clarity. If the woman had sent the text by chance, she was irrelevant. But if someone fed her those words, it meant his inner circle was compromised. He replayed the encounter in his head. Her trembling hands, the confusion that couldn't be faked. The way her eyes flicked toward the trash, not out of guilt but humiliation. No. She wasn't a liar. She was collateral. He opened another file, photographs from the stolen goods investigation. One image stopped him. A gold necklace. The same design he'd seen glinting from her garbage can. Marcus froze. Molly. He typed the name into his database. A match appeared. Molly Reese. Marketing associate. No record, except one note from a shell company tied to his supply routes. Marcus's pulse steadied. The web tightened. He closed the laptop, voice low. Turn around, we're going back. Back at the apartment, the air felt heavier. Sarah hadn't moved. The ticking clock mocked her with its composure. When the door opened again, she jumped. Marcus entered quietly, rain still glistening on his suit. He looked different, colder, but also certain, like a man who'd found a missing piece. Leon straightened. Marcus waved him off. Give us a moment. Leon left. The door clicked shut. Sarah spoke first. If you came to threaten me again. I didn't. Marcus said. He removed his gloves, placed them on the table with surgical precision. I came to listen. She hesitated, mistrusting the calm in his voice. Listen to what? To the truth? he said simply, and perhaps to myself. He pulled out his phone, set it face up on the table. You texted me, accidentally, but the words you used, they weren't accidental. I told you it was meant for Molly, Marcus finished. Yes, your friend. He studied her reaction, the flash of grief, half the defensive blink. You cared about her, he said, until she betrayed you. Sarah looked away. You seem to know everything already. I know betrayal, Marcus replied. It speaks the same language no matter who's doing the talking. For a long moment, neither moved. The storm outside softened into a misty hiss against the windows. Marcus finally asked, Where is she now? I don't know, Sarah said. She left. She took everything. Did she take this? He lifted the photo on his phone, the necklace identical to the one in her trash. Sarah's breath caught. That was hers. She said it was a gift. Marcus's voice lowered. It was, from one of my men. Sarah stared at him, understanding dawning too slowly to stop the fear. Molly worked for you? Not directly, his tone sharpened. But she worked for someone who did, and she may have been the one feeding information that cost several people their lives. Sarah shook her head. No, you're wrong. She couldn't even keep her own job. Marcus stepped closer, eyes unblinking. Pain makes us underestimate people, especially the ones who hurt us. Silence. He watched her crumble, not from his words, but from the slow recognition that her heartbreak had never been private. It was part of something larger, colder. Finally he spoke softer. You're not the enemy, Miss Langley, but right now, you're the only clean variable in a very dirty equation. She swallowed hard. What happens now? Marcus studied her for a beat, then glanced around the small apartment. The lamp, the rain-streaked window, the faint smell of jasmine. Now, he said quietly, this place becomes the safest house in the city, until I know who in my world put you in danger. He looked at her one last time, not as an interrogator, but as a man seeing a reflection of his own ruin. Lock the door behind me, he said. When he left, Sarah did as he said, and for the first time in her life, locking a door didn't make her feel safe. Night blurred into morning without permission. The clock on Sarah's microwave blinked 4:17 a.m., a time that belonged to no one, too late to sleep, too early to hope. She sat at the kitchen table, wrapped in a cardigan that smelled faintly of rain. Outside, the street was empty now. The black sedans were gone, replaced by silence so thick it had weight. On the counter, a pot of untouched tea had gone cold hours ago. Every sound felt amplified. The hum of the fridge, the tap of her fingernail against porcelain, the occasional shift of leather as Leon adjusted his stance by the window. She'd stopped asking when she could leave. The answer had already hung in Marcus's eyes. Not yet. The front door opened. Marcus entered. Crisp suit, hair damp, a faint bruise along his jaw like an afterthought. He didn't speak right away. He just stood in the doorway, scanning the room as if checking for ghosts. Sarah broke the silence. You didn't sleep. He looked at her. Neither did you. A pause. The kind of pause where two people realize they've crossed from fear into a strange, quiet truce. He took a seat across from her. You ever notice how betrayal changes time? She frowned. What do you mean? It slows the minutes before it happens, Marcus said, eyes unfocused, and speeds them up after. The world moves, but you stay stuck in the moment it broke. She didn't respond. She didn't need to. They both sat in that truth. Two strangers haunted by different ghosts of the same shape. Later that day, sunlight cut through the blinds in thin surgical lines. Marcus was gone again. Business, Leon had said, leaving Sarah alone in her apartment with two new men stationed outside and Leon inside, pretending not to watch her every move. She tried reading, scrolling, anything to keep her mind from replaying the night, but she couldn't shake the image of Marcus's eyes. Not threatening, but hollow, like someone who'd learned to live without softness. She stood, pacing. Do you ever get tired of watching people? She asked suddenly. Leon didn't answer. Because it looks exhausting, she added. He finally turned his head. You learn things when you watch. Like what? He hesitated. Then patterns. Sarah tilted her head. What's mine? You're trying to convince yourself this isn't real, Leon said. That when you wake up tomorrow, the world goes back to normal. Maybe it will. No, he said quietly. People don't come back from things like this. They adapt or they break. Something in his tone didn't match the words. It wasn't advice, it was warning. Sarah studied him, the tension in his jaw, the faint sheen of sweat despite the cool air. He wasn't just guarding her, he was waiting for something. She sat again, voice steady. "You don't trust Marcus, do you?" Leon's eyes flicked to her, sharp as glass. "Careful what you assume." "I'm not assuming," she said. "I can feel it." His silence confirmed it more than any admission. Evening. The world outside had turned gold and quiet again, that deceptive peace before storms. Marcus returned just as Sarah finished washing her hands at the sink. She looked up as he entered. There was blood on his cuff, a small, dried stain, quickly rolled away when he noticed her gaze. "Long day?" she asked softly. He ignored the question. "Did anyone come by?" "No," she said, "just your shadows." He gave a faint smile. "They mean well?" Her tone was calm, but the air shifted. Marcus watched her, truly watched, as if seeing a different person from the frightened woman the night before. "You're not afraid of me anymore," he said. "I think I understand you," she replied. He raised a brow. "That's dangerous." "Understanding or thinking I do?" "Both." Their eyes held. For a moment, the world around them narrowed to the faint hum of the refrigerator and the rhythm of two people who shouldn't have anything in common but suddenly did. Then Sarah spoke, quietly. "You have someone close to you, someone you trust, but you shouldn't." Marcus's expression didn't change, but his silence betrayed the hit. She continued, voice barely above a whisper. "He looks at you the way Molly used to look at me. The kind of look people have right before they decide something unforgivable." Marcus's jaw tightened. "Who?" "Leon," she said. "He watches you like he's waiting for you to prove him right." For the first time, Marcus seemed caught off guard. His composure cracked just slightly, a flicker of pain behind the control. He stood abruptly, adjusting his cufflinks. "You see ghosts in people's faces, Miss Langley. Don't project your scars onto mine." "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe I just recognize betrayal before it happens now." He stopped at the door, hand on the frame. Without turning back, he said, "If you're wrong, that's a dangerous game. And if I'm right," his answer came softly, "then it's already too late." By the next night, the air inside the apartment had changed again. It wasn't fear anymore. It was something colder, quieter. Sarah moved through her home like someone half awake, aware of every shadow, every creak of the floorboards. The smell of brewed coffee hung in the air. Leon had made it, but hadn't drunk any. He stood near the door, phone in hand, texting someone with a precision that felt rehearsed. Marcus hadn't returned all day. "Long night?" Sarah asked casually, trying to sound disinterested. Leon didn't look up. "You should get some rest." She leaned against the counter. "Do you ever rest?" His thumbs froze mid-text, just for a second, but long enough for her to notice. "Some people can't," he said finally. "Too much noise." "What kind of noise?" Leon slid his phone into his pocket, the kind that never stops, even when everything else goes quiet. Their eyes met. Sarah smiled faintly. "You mean guilt?" He didn't answer. It was enough. Something inside her clicked, that small, invisible moment when fear becomes understanding. She realized Leon wasn't just tired, he was unraveling. The storm returned that night. Thunder rolled like slow applause from the sky, shaking the thin window glass. Sarah was half asleep on the couch when the first flash of blue and red lights bled through the curtains. For a second, she thought she was dreaming. The sound of sirens, voices outside, a commanding shout. "Police, open up!" Leon shot to his feet. "Stay here." Sarah's pulse spiked. She followed him to the door. Barefoot, heart pounding against her ribs. "Police?" she whispered. "They can help." Leon turned sharply, his voice cutting through the noise. "Back away now." It wasn't what he said. It was how he said it. The flat tone of someone who already knew what was coming. Outside, footsteps thudded on the stairs. The knock on the door came fast, hard. "Sarah Langley, this is the police." Her eyes darted to Leon. His hand hovered near his jacket pocket. Too calm, too measured. Something was wrong. "Leon," she said, voice trembling. "Who did you text earlier?" He froze. Outside, another voice shouted, "We're here to get you out. Open the door." Sarah's breathing grew shallow. Her mind split into instinct and logic. The noise he can't silence, guilt, too much noise. She realized this wasn't rescue. It was execution dressed as salvation. Without thinking, she ran to the bedroom and slammed the door, locking it. Her hands shook as she grabbed her phone. Her thumb hovered over Marcus's number. She typed, each word deliberate, every keystroke a gamble. Leo was right. You changed. That's why Molly did what she did, and that's why he's doing it now. She pressed send. Outside, she heard the crash of the front door breaking open, followed by voices, overlapping commands, the clatter of boots. Sarah crouched beside the bed, holding her breath. Miles away, Marcus's car tore through the rain-slick streets, tires slicing puddles open like wounds. His phone lit up. The message appeared. Sarah's words fragmented on the glowing screen. He read it once, then again. Each sentence hit like a revelation. You changed. That's why Molly did what she did. That's why he's doing it now. He didn't hesitate. Turn around, he ordered. The driver glanced at him. Sir? Now. Marcus's voice was ice. They're not cops. The car spun through an intersection, red light ignored, rain streaking across the windshield in white noise. Marcus's jaw clenched. Call the outer team. Tell them we've been compromised. He knew exactly what Leo was doing, cleaning the trail, erasing loose ends. And in the middle of that plan was a woman who had no idea she'd become the hinge of everything. Back at the apartment, the living room was chaos. Two men in fake uniforms moved through with military precision, weapons drawn. Leon led them, voice low, bedroom, quick. Sarah's hands shook so badly she almost dropped her phone. She glanced toward the window, too small to escape, too high to jump. She could hear footsteps nearing the door. Then, a sound outside. Not sirens, not thunder. Engines, 3 of them. The roar of real engines, controlled, synchronized. The kind she'd heard that first night. A voice boomed through the hallway. Leon. Everything stopped. The door burst open. Marcus stepped in, soaked, calm, deadly. He didn't draw a gun. He didn't need to. His presence alone cut through the air like a blade. The fake officers froze. Leon's expression shifted. Guilt, then defiance. Marcus looked at him. That's why he's doing it now, he repeated softly. Leon's lips parted, searching for words. None came. For a long, trembling second, the two men stood facing each other, 20 years of loyalty balanced on the edge of silence. Marcus finally spoke. Put it down. Leon didn't. His hand tightened on the weapon at his side. Marcus didn't flinch. Don't make me finish your story, Marcus said quietly. You already wrote the ending. The gun dropped to the floor. No one moved. Marcus stepped forward, eyes locked on Leon. Get out, he said to the others. Now. The imposters left without a sound. Only the rain remained. Marcus turned to Sarah, who stood frozen in the doorway, eyes wide, face pale. It's over, he said softly. But even as he said it, both of them knew it never truly would be. The apartment smelled of rain and gun oil. Every light was on, yet the room felt dim. Leon sat cuffed at the dining table, a towel pressed against a cut above his brow. The storm outside had broken, leaving the world slick and cold. Sarah stood by the counter, holding a mug she wasn't drinking from. Marcus leaned against the window frame, staring at nothing. He looked older now, not in years, but in the weight around his eyes. Why? He asked quietly. The question wasn't for Sarah. Leon's voice came rough, low. You stopped seeing people, Marcus. You saw investments. Collateral. Me included. Marcus didn't answer. Leon gave a faint, bitter smile. You think loyalty survives being treated like a tool? Sarah's fingers tightened around her mug. Marcus's silence filled the room like smoke. Leon leaned forward. The code, the leak, the missing shipment, none of it was about money. It was about you. About watching the empire you built choke on its own paranoia. Marcus finally turned, eyes sharp again but emptied of rage. You killed men who trusted me. Leon's reply came almost tenderly. So did you. Marcus didn't look away. Neither did Leon. Two men, teacher and disciple, staring across the ghost of what loyalty used to mean. Sarah watched, heart pounding, realizing she was standing inside a war that had no sides left to choose. Later, after Leon was taken away, the apartment was quiet again. No guards, no engines, just rain dripping from the gutter outside. Sarah sat on the floor by the window, knees drawn up. Marcus stood near the table, removing his tie, his hands shaking slightly, the first crack in his armor. You saved my life, he said finally. I didn't do it for you, she answered softly. I did it because I didn't want to watch someone else die because of me. Marcus studied her for a moment, then looked down. You remind me of someone, he said. Someone who used to believe accidents didn't exist. She gave a small, tired smile. I still don't. He turned toward her. You think any of this was coincidence? I think, she said, choosing her words carefully, the universe has a cruel sense of humor. They both laughed, once quietly, and the sound felt wrong but necessary, like a fracture resetting. Marcus walked to the window, staring at the empty street. This place isn't safe anymore. I can move you somewhere else. Sarah shook her head. No, if I leave, this becomes your story again. I need it to stay mine. He looked at her, really looked, and for the first time there was respect in his eyes, not control. Then you stay, he said. Dawn bled slowly into the room. The city woke, unaware of the night it had survived. Marcus stood by the doorway, coat over his arm. Sarah followed him out onto the small front step. The air smelled of wet asphalt and something clean. Maybe peace, maybe just exhaustion. He paused beside the car. You'll hear rumors, he said, about who I am, what I've done. Believe the ones that make sense. Sarah folded her arms. And what about the ones that don't? Those are usually true, he said with a faint smile. For a heartbeat, the silence between them held everything that couldn't be said. Gratitude, guilt, something close to forgiveness. Then Marcus nodded once, the same quiet acknowledgement as that first night when the cars had surrounded her house. A gesture that said you lived, and that's enough. He stepped into the car. The door shut. The convoy rolled away, engines low and steady, until the sound dissolved into morning traffic. Sarah stood there, barefoot on the wet concrete, until the street was empty again. She turned, walked back inside, and closed the door. On the table, her phone buzzed. A new message. She hesitated, then picked it up. The screen glowed with a single line. You were right. Accidents don't exist. No name, no number, just the words. Sarah stared at it for a long time, then set the phone down beside the cold coffee cup. The city outside carried on, unaware that one text had rewritten 2 lives. Thank you for staying until the very end of this story. She texted the Mafia boss by mistake. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. New powerful stories, filled with emotion, mystery, and human truth. Premiere here every day. Your support keeps these stories alive. See you in the next one.